jumped out of bed. I put in my best shoes, got on my bike and raced through Huggles just to get to you. Can I have breakfast with Bob and Paul? Cause I need to know. Yes, I need to know. I said, can I have breakfast with Bob and Paul? Cause I need to know. I need to know.
Oh, Pancho Man. Welcome to Breakfast from Kona. My name is Bob Abbott. His name is Paul Huddle, and we are presented by Active. Hashtag inspired to race. Sponsored by Timex Rudy Project GoPro. We've got our GoPro 4 on us right now. 2-camera shoot. MPA Graphics, Lava Magazine, Babbittville Radio. Our next guest, 2-time Ironman World Champion. And he's so shy and reserved. We're going to try to see.
You can never get a soundbite out of this
to see if we can finally get a soundbite that matters from Chris McCormack. How about a round of applause for Macca? That's right. The Macca X. Follow him wherever he goes. I love that. Macca X in the house. How you doing?
Really good. Good to see you guys.
We heard there's day of race registration, and you can sign up to do this race. How excited
Still look
are
pretty
you?
fit.
No, I'm not fit. No, and I spent the day today out on the course. I had a swim. The first time I've ever come to Kona race week and swum the course, and I don't miss it at all. Beautiful out there. I stopped and had a coffee, and I much prefer being on this side of the fence.
So when you look at it now, and you're going, I can't believe I did this thing.
Yeah, I look at these athletes and I can't believe I ever got that fit, you know, and especially the pros. I've seen, you know, you go around race week and you're seeing all the pros left, right and centre, and you're like, wow, they're just impressive. So I enjoy sitting back now and watching them go around and watching the show here and seeing how they're thinking and working with a few of the athletes who are racing.
So what are you doing this week, or what do you do this week that you probably fantasized about doing back when you were, you know, training
just
and
sitting with your legs up,
at this
right?
point, curled up in the fetal position, going, "Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?" I mean, as you know now, people come here and have fun.
Yeah, and that's, you know, last night I went down to town and had some dinner. I would never have done that race week. It's just too hectic, and swimming the course. Yeah, going to the. Thank God I'm not racing part of it.
That's right.
You know,
handing out medals.
Handing out medals and all the things. Because this race, there's two sides of it. There's the hype of the event and the people who aren't racing. Yeah. And you do miss that. You know, you see it going on. You're trying to stay away from that as a racer. And then there's the people who this is their world. This is their life. And you know, they've got their event going on. So I've experienced both, and I do like being on this side of the fence, as I said.
Have you seen Crow at all this week?
I haven't. I literally got in yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
And but I've had some people see him. They said he looks in really good form. But everyone looks so good.
Yeah, everyone looks ridiculously fit. Yeah,
it's crazy.
So speaking of that, you are working with Caroline Steffen, and she's finished second here twice. Certainly has a talent to win. And having someone like you who knows a little bit about getting past some downtimes and having a great race here. What have you worked with her on?
I think when Carolyn came aboard, I said there's no secret session. If you're looking for a session that you haven't done, I don't have the answer to that. I think you know, in my opinion, you should have won this race already. Yes. And you haven't, because something's let you down. So on my end, I really work on the cerebral part. You know, getting her head in the right place and making sure she sees herself as the way we see her, because that's, I think, her downfall in years past, and making her happy, just being a happy racer. I said, look, you're blessed to do this sport. It's fantastic. You're at the pointy end of it. You have all the artillery to win this. I call her the Freddie Van Leert of the women's race. She doesn't have a weakness.
She has no weakness at all.
There's people, there's girls out there that are probably quicker runners, quicker bikers, or quicker swimmers. But you've got to put three of them together. Sorry. People jumping the set to get to me. Yeah, fans later, I'll sign later. No, joking. You know, but she...
that was great.
We had a guy earlier do that.
I was like, what's about to hit me in the back of the head? What are they yelling stop about?
But that's been my main focus with her, just keeping her in the right headspace. And you know, obviously the anticipation comes race week. She's a little nervous, and you know, you just try and keep it real. There's no one here you haven't raced. You've been on this course many times before, and you know what to expect out there. There's nothing unexpected. Yeah. So just go and do what you do, and make that day matter. You know, it comes down to 9 hours of racing for them. Make that 9 hours of your life matter, and because a lot of hours you tick by in your life that don't really matter, these 9 can change your life.
Yeah, I want to get right at it, because I know you are one of those guys who doesn't have a problem giving us predictions. A lot of the athletes that we've talked to are like, they're really hesitant and they don't want to say, even people who aren't racing, So give me at least 3, maybe 5 of the top men and top women that we're going to see on Saturday.
okay.
And I know this is it's impossible. It's such a wide selection, but
I think people are scared to go because they don't want to be wrong. But I think, one man's won this on debut. That was Luc van Leer. Yep. I think, Jan Frodeno can definitely be another one to come along and do that. He's got all the runs on the board. He's Olympic champion. He was stunning in Frankfurt on debut with 2 flat
with
tires.
3 flats and
with
stopping a half dozen times in a run.
He had some cramps on the run. My only thing was he cramped on the run in Frankfurt.
Yeah. And you've been there.
And I've been there. And this, if anything's going to bubble to the surface in any Ironman race, this is the one where it's going to come to the surface. So if you have an issue with cramping, it could be a problem here. But
does his stature worry you?
Just it does a little.
Yeah,
it does a little.
Tall.
A big tall guy.
Because you're a big guy doing this race.
But he, he just doesn't have a weakness. He's in a perfect position where he can be the first couple of guys out of the water. He can just follow the lead in the bike ride. And he's a
not going to have to make up ground.
He doesn't have to do anything. So they're dangerous athletes. I think Rana's another one, Ivan Rana, who won Austria this year. This is his second Kona. He was 7th or 8th last year. I think 6th he was finished last year, just in front of Tyler Butterfield. He's won 2 ITU World Championships. He's a little older. He could be there. No one's talking about Freddie. I think Freddie is definitely going to be there. And they, to me, last year was one on the bike, and it tends to flip around year after year. The bike year, the next year it comes back to the run. So, we talk about the Lukes and the Sebis.
Yes.
They're going to have to do some big damage on the bike. You've got, is Starkovic in this year? Starkey's in.
Yeah.
And you know what his game plan is going to be. So, I tend to go with those 3 I mentioned, and I think Sebi and Lukey will be going with Starkey to set up a big bike lead, but I just don't think it's going to be enough with the horsepower.
Someone like a Bart Arnotts, who's gone from 11th to 8th, and obviously one of the better runners off the bike. He's gone from an hour 1 in the swim to 57, and I bet he'll be more like 54, 55 if it's standard conditions. I like a guy like that to possibly get a top 3.
He can definitely do it, but I think, as we saw, I like to talk about Crowe too, because you can't go past a 3-time champion, and his only Ironman this year was Melbourne, and on land, he was quicker than all of them. He ran a 2:43 marathon. He rode solo on the bike with a 4:30, and he got beaten in the swim. So he's never had a swim problem here in Kona.
Never.
And if he's in that front pack, the confidence is going to grow. He's got nothing to lose. He knows his last year, and he's done. So that's the same thing I see with Bart. If the swim this year, the guys, unfortunately for Bart, the guys are going to know that if they let Crowe get out of the water with them, it's a problem. So they've got to push the swim, and you've got Pozzi and Frodeno and those sort of guys that are going to swim very, very fast. And in the early part of the swim, it's I think the big change nowadays is the intensity for the first half mile of this swim. It is flat out, and that's where it's really changed. It sort of settles in the middle, but I remember my first couple of years here, it was really, you built into the swim. It was hard for a bit, and then it was sort of a nice rhythm, but now these guys set a tempo really, really fast, then they settle and they bang it back as well, and that's what makes people tired, and that's what breaks up groups.
How about Andy Potts?
Yeah, Andy's done his time here.
Does he ride the bike well enough? That's always.
I think his issue is his size as an athlete here, and he definitely got the talent to do it. But there's so many guys, as we said, that are stepping up that he has to have a special day, and he has to be prepared to have a crack. And I just don't know where he can do that. Where it can't be covered. He's got the swim lead. He's not going to go solo. He's going to get caught on the bike, so he's not going to break away on the bike. And if he has a go on the run, there's multiple guys that can match that. So I just don't know where he's going to attack that bike or attack that run and get away with the win.
You talk about Freddie. You know what it's like to come back here as a defending champion. What are the obstacles you see for Freddie?
Coming back as a defending champion, it's
what does that mean? What does that mean?
More obligations, more people know you, more personal expectations.
Do you think it's harder coming from a smaller country as opposed to like the U.S.? If you're, just having that pressure, it seems like there's a lot more pressure from the smaller countries.
Yeah, and he's famous there now, very, very famous, and he has a famous last name. The only 2 Belgians to ever win, Van Leers. So I just, I watched him in Frankfurt attentively. He finished second there, and he just did exactly the same thing as he did in Kona, and winning this race is about consistency. Being consistent in the 3 disciplines, sticking to your game plan, trusting that, and that's why I think he's a typical Belgian in that sense. He'll stick to it and he won't falter, and I think looking at him as an athlete. I don't think he looks at the result. I think last year he won, and he's like, yes, it wasn't he just did what he had to do it, and I think he'll do the same this year.
And Luke basically told us this morning that he's stronger in all three.
Yeah.
And then the key, what none of us know, is who's injured and who isn't.
Yeah.
Right. You never know until race day who's going to get to the starting line. Women's side, obviously Caroline.
Oh well, it's obviously Rinny. You got Rachel, Leander, Caroline. The list goes on. I think
this is probably one of the deeper women's fields in terms
Daniela
of potential.
Daniela, who's 70.3 champion.
Yeah.
There's so many. I've been really attentive to the women's race more than the men's this year. Just working with Caroline and just looking at every single athlete. When she comes up with an insecurity. Oh, what do you think about? Well, I put all their stats on the table and say, well, she swims this, she bikes this, she runs this. You win. Boom. So stop giving me what you can't do and start telling me what you can. So I think it's the same players. Daniela's going to be a game changer with Jodie in the swim. They all know they've got to get away from Rinny with that run last year. So you've got a big front pack, and the biggest changing thing in the women's racing now is this packs. And last year was the first time we really saw that. And pack racing in Ironman changes the game, and we sort of started to get a feel for that around 2004,
right,
and 5, and it really changed things. And how you use a pack, how you get through this passing, how that works, changes how you feel on the run, and anything can happen. So the girls' race, I can't wait to watch. Really can't.
So when you look back now, and I'm assuming that you might be done as a pro racing here.
Yeah.
I'm tossing that out.
No, I am.
You are
100%.
100%. Okay.
100%. My wife will divorce me. My wife will divorce me if I come back here. I promised her. She said we'll come back on holidays and watch everybody, but no more. I'm not going through another one of those psych builds that you do. It's painful for her.
So when you look back, in retrospect, what was your best day here?
10 was my best day, without question. But the most satisfying was it was 2006, finishing second to Norman.
That was the most satisfying.
Yeah, it was for me personally, it was a breakthrough. I had so many, I hadn't won it, but you've had so many failure. Then you get a 6th place the year prior, and you're like, was that a fluke? Was that a? And then you back it up. It's sort of and you're heading in the right direction. That was the first time I walked away, even though despite the big arguments and fights,
right,
where I really believed.
You can win the race.
There's a lot of hype before I can do this, I can win it, but you really believed after that one.
71 seconds.
Yeah.
You can look back and go,
I can win this thing.
That's really interesting you say that. I mean, one of the most impressive to me was the look. Yeah. When you just looked over on the run and in the last whatever it was.
In
miles,
2010 with
Whaler?
Whaler?
I mean that was awesome.
Yeah.
But you don't feel like that didn't feel as satisfying as that.
It was definitely satisfying.
Yeah.
But I think to
have the wherewithal to be able to do that racing at the end of a marathon in an Ironman was just shocking. I mean, it was just like he's racing. He's not just surviving it and getting to the finish line.
Yeah, but I think the other side of that is when you talk about tactics, and I'm guessing, and I don't know if I've ever even asked you this, did you slow down a little bit on that run to let Andreas? You knew he was going to catch.
I knew he was coming. I didn't actually slow down, but I took the pressure off.
Right.
Usually in these races, you're fighting every mile. You're pushing. You're really attentive to everything, and that pressure is fatiguing.
Yes.
And so when I knew he was coming, I said, you know what, just accept it. When you accept it, it's a relief.
Yeah.
You're like, he's going to catch you. Who cares? So what?
Nothing you can do about
wait till he gets here, and then at least I can see him.
Yeah.
So once you take that pressure off you. You start looking at things more positively, and I did the math expecting him to catch me with 6 miles to go, and when he hadn't caught me with 6 miles to go, I'm like, well,
the bonus.
He's feeling it too.
He's feeling it too.
Right.
And they're the little things that you sort of you take away from, and then when he finally runs up next to you, you get to see them because all you're hearing before that is stats, is times, and you realise he's hurting and he's breathing and he's sweating and we're the same, you really, and so at that point, not that I've been there so many times. I said, just don't get ahead of yourself. You got to be first back to the pier.
Right.
It doesn't matter who's first down Palani or first to the aid station. You need to cross the line first. So just be attentive to what's happening, and when your chance comes, seize it. And once you go for it, go for it. And
what did you detect in him? I mean, obviously when he came up, like you said, he wasn't the picture of just floating.
He didn't
along.
go by.
Yeah. But what did you detect when you decided to go?
Honestly, I detected I'd had and this is the truth. I raced him in Frankfurt earlier in the year, and I'd had a conversation with his younger brother Michael, who was the 2-time 70.3 champion, and he asked if he could have breakfast with me, and he wanted to sit down and discuss how to have a long career. You know, he said, "How have you done it? How have you had this long career? I'd like to." And at this breakfast, we were chatting, and he's like, "You know, to me and Andreas, you're like our idol." I'm like, "Really, me?" You sort of think, "Me?" I said, "Andreas just kicked my ass." You know? He's like, "Oh yeah, you know, we did the World Cup with you guys, and you know, we used to love how you raced, and Andreas really looks up to you." So I honestly remember when he caught up to me, the things that go through your head was, mate, this guy, I'm his idol. Imagine if I was running up to Mark Allen. And I lost races when I was young to Brad Bevan and Greg Welsh. Races I really should have just blown by these guys. But you catch your idol, and you're like, "Mate, I'm running with Greg Welsh, you know, like I'm running with, you know, oh, this is cool, like I'll get a photo and, you know.
Maybe they'll get an autograph.
I'll be on the magazine. It'll be awesome.
Not that much, but you really, and when he didn't go past me, I thought he's given me too much respect.
Right.
You know, there's too much. So I played that alpha male. Hey, man, good luck with it, you know, like have a good race. But talk to him like, "I've been here 10,000 times, buddy.
Just stay with me.
Just stay with me, mate. Don't do anything stupid." and
because the reality is, if you're racing, you either A, sit on the guy, or B, blow by him.
Yeah, blow by him.
You never come up and let him, you know, it's like you've worked so hard to catch him, you've got to save up a little energy and do the Dave Scott to Mark Allen.
Boom.
Nice seeing you, I'm gone.
And you lay that, because at that part of an Ironman, you're so emotionally and physically exhausted that kind of pressure breaks people, you know, and it only needs to be for half a mile, and you're like, "Oh, I can't. But I think the first thing I said, and when I crossed the line, was, "This is the race Andreas is going to look back on as he gets older, and he's going to go, man, that's the one that got away." Because he was...
he had you.
He had me.
Yeah. No question about it.
He really had me, and he just got outplayed at the critical point. And, you know, he lost by a minute 40, but he lost in one small section of the race. It wasn't as if over 8 hours I ran a minute 40 out of him. It was we were together, and then that section that mattered cost him.
It is really interesting. I wonder how many people, both on the men's and the women's side, have been caught from behind at that point and ended up winning.
Leander did it to Rinny.
Yeah.
And that was impressive, you know.
But it's like, I bet there aren't many where that's happening.
Totally.
And people don't fight.
And when Leander did it, I think she blew Rinny's mind.
Totally.
When she laid that, you know what, bang.
I don't know if it's ever happened to her before.
Yeah.
It's totally, and at that point, that's what I talk, and that's been the main thing I've been drilling into Caroline. It's like the physicality of this event is easy. Like I can give you killer sessions like Sato, and you'll train the house down and you'll be amazing. But when you get out of that, I can't run out of the lab with you. You know, nobody can run out of the energy lab with you. You have to deal with that. And what happens in those moments, how you deal with that, is what ultimately determines whether you're first or fifth. And you know, I think that's been the main thing with her is making sure that when that storm comes of agony and those questions are asked, you've got answers, and you better answer them quickly, because those are the moments that you win or lose races.
When you looked at her training and looked at her training logs, was there anything that stuck out to you that, oh my God, this is a mistake or that's a mistake, or is pretty much that's pretty standard training?
I knew most of the work because we'd done it
when you were with Sato.
So not much has changed. Brett works them really, really hard. Yeah. So whenever you get an athlete who's been under Brett's tutelage, you know you got a hard worker. Yeah. You know you got someone who's used to hard work, who's prepared to do that work, and just a little refinements. I believe in a little bit more rest. I think there wasn't enough focus on why you're doing certain things, empowering you, because those are the questions you're asking yourself when the race is. I said, the 2 times you've lost this event, Caroline, you've been left hollow. You've been 4 miles from home. You had it in the bag. What happened? She's like, I don't know. I said, well, let's talk about it. Let's go back to that and talk about what happened. She's like, I just didn't think I could do it. Why? You know, and you try and break down where those insecurities come from. Is it when because you're going to face that again on the weekend. You're going to be running out of your life. You're going to be asking these questions. If you don't have the answers, the same outcome's going to happen. I can't train you any harder, you know, and so that's been my primary focus. Why are you here? Why do you want to win this race? What does it mean to you? And if you can't give yourself questions or answers to those questions that are big enough to endure what you're about to endure, then you're not going to win, because it's bloody hard. It's really, really hard, and you've got to be able to answer them.
Yeah, and all second and third's going to do is upset her again.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
totally.
but and the second and third, you know, when you look at it historically, that's where your winner comes from. I
Yes.
mean, I understand people do repeat, but it's a lot more rare. And the people who are winning are typically second and third. I mean, I think Kinley, this is his year. I think Carolyn, this is her year. Not so much because they're so much physically better than anyone else, but it's like, it's sort of the progression.
Yeah. You've done your time.
Right.
You've done your time.
As you did.
You know you're close.
Yeah.
You start to put it together. You know, you start to think, well, they were just there. You know, like
Yeah.
I can, you know, and you realise that they're, you know, I think with the year I went from second, I was in the medical tent, and when I walked out of there, I remember seeing Norman, and he looked, you know, I said, geez, the winners never hurt, you know, like
they always
the
look
winners
easy.
never hurt. And I'm watching third collapse, fourth collapse, fifth collapse. I said, well, you know, if you win this thing, it must be easier. So, and it really is. It really
I've
is.
seen Mark Allen on a stretcher after he won that thing.
Yeah.
That was,
Macca, always a pleasure,
Cheers.
man. Yeah, and we can
Thanks
go
for
all
coming
day
out.
with you.
Oh, cheers.
I know you've
Thanks,
got other
man.
things to do. Macca, Chris McCormack, how about a round of applause for Chris
Gotcha.
McCormack?
Yeah.
thanks.
This is Breakfast from Kona. We are wrapping up day 3. We're presented by Active, #Inspired to Race. Bob Babbitt here with Mr. Paul Huddle. Our sponsors are Timex Rudy Project, GoPro, MPA Graphics, Lava Magazine, Babbittville Radio, and of course, Poncho the Man.
Gonna have breakfast with Bob. Gonna have breakfast with Paul. Gonna have breakfast with Mecca. We're gonna have it anyway. Gonna have breakfast, have it anyway. Gonna have breakfast, have it on a Wednesday. Gonna have breakfast, gonna have it. Gonna have breakfast with Bob and Paul.
Mecca and Poncho Man.
Aloha Wednesday.
Nice.
Photos.
Sponsors in half the prize.
I know, right?